Welcome to the YouTube channel of Maps&Locations.com. Today we're going to talk about Canada. Before borders, they were nations. But we're not going to be talking about Canada defined by provinces, and definitely not the Canada divided into neat rectangles. This map shows something older. It shows linguistic and cultural territories of indigenous nations before modern state borders flattened them into administrative shapes. And the first thing you should notice is this: these boundaries do not look like straight lines. That is not a coincidence. Geography first, politics later. Let's start at the top. Across the Arctic, you see names like Inuvialuit, Aivilingmiut, Netsilingmiut, Kivallirmiut, and Labrador Inuit. This region is labeled broadly as Eskimoan in the legend, though today the term Inuit is preferred in most contexts. What matters here cartographically is this: the Arctic region is massive, continuous, and lightly segmented. Let me zoom in on the Arctic region. Like I said, the Arctic region is massive, continuous, and lightly segmented. Why? Because geography dictates it. The tundra stretches across enormous distances with relatively uniform environmental conditions. Travel happens across ice, coastlines, and seasonal routes. Cultural regions here expand horizontally, not vertically. Maps of the Arctic always look big because the land is big. That is honest cartography. Hudson Bay is the center of gravity. And yes, I have talked about Hudson Bay in previous maps as well, but those were different kinds of maps of Canada. Now let's look at Hudson Bay. This inland sea reshapes everything. Cultural regions curve around it, language groups wrap along its shores, travel routes historically followed its coastline, and river systems feeding into it. Maps often make Hudson Bay feel like empty water. In reality, it was a highway, and this map reflects that, even without drawing arrows. The Algonquin sweep. Now let's move south into the large golden region labeled Algonquin and related groups like Anishinaabe, Cree, Innu, and others. Let me zoom in on Algonquin, Anishinaabe. This region stretches across central Canada in a broad band. That tells you something powerful. Forested regions, interconnected river systems, and seasonal mobility allowed wide linguistic continuity. Canoe routes connected lakes and rivers across thousands of kilometers. When you see a large continuous color on a cultural map, it usually means movement was possible and sustained. Geography encourages cohesion. Now let's talk about the Athabascan interior network. Let's shift west into the large peach-colored Athabascan region labeled here with groups like Dean, Gwich'in, and others. Notice how this region spreads across interior northern Canada and into Alaska. This is not political expansion, this is river connectivity. The Mackenzie River system and its tributaries act like veins. Cultural regions follow drainage basins more often than they follow modern borders. Maps like this quietly teach hydrology if you know how to read them. The Pacific Coast explosion of diversity. Now let's zoom into the Pacific Coast. Suddenly the map becomes crowded. Haida, Tsimshian, Lingit, Wakashan, Salishan, Nuchanul, and more. The coastline is fragmented by mountains, fjords, and islands. That fragmentation creates micro regions. When geography divides community with natural barriers, linguistic diversity increases. Contrast that with the broad continuity of the interior. Mountains fragment, rivers connect, and you can see that principle directly in the color patterns. The plains and the Suawan core. Let's move into the green central patch labeled Suawan. With groups like Lakota and Nakota extending southward. The plains are open, mobile landscapes. The cultural territories here are less constrained by mountains and more influenced by mobility patterns, seasonal migrations, and resource distribution. When terrain opens up, territories stretch differently. Maps of plains region often look smoother than coastal ones for that region. For that reason, the Iroquoian corridor. Now let's look towards the east near the Great Lakes and St. Lawrence region. You see Iroquoian in green along a defined corridor. This area combines waterways, fertile land, and defensible positions. River valleys create natural axes of movement and settlement. Cultural regions here align along corridors rather than spreading uniformly outward. Again, the map is quietly showing you terrain logic. What this map actually leaves out. Now, the important cartography lesson here. This map simplifies, yes. It uses solid colors to represent cultural, linguistic territories that were fluid, dynamic, and often overlapping. There were trade routes, alliances, conflicts, seasonal shifts, and shared zones, but a map must choose clarity over total accuracy. So it freezes movement into color blocks. That is not wrong, it is necessary, but it is important to remember maps are models, not realities. Reading this map correctly. This is not a map of ownership. It is not a map of exclusive claims. It is a map of primary linguistic cultural regions based on historical scholarship. When reading it, you should think in terms of networks, not fences. The colors represent centers of gravity, not walls. A different way to see Canada. Most people are used to seeing Canada divided into provinces. This map asks you to imagine a different spatial logic, one shaped by rivers instead of railways, seasonal routes instead of highways, language families instead of administrative districts. It reminds us that maps do not just show land, they show worldview, and depending on what you choose to map, the same territory can tell completely different stories. Again, so that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching if you've reached till the end. If you like the video, please like and subscribe. And if you want a custom map developed just like this one, reach out to Maps&Locations.com and we'll help you craft a map of Canada, US, or any other country or city that you desire. Again, thank you for watching, like and subscribe, and don't forget to miss out the next one.